My name is Angie Amazon. I'm playing Little Red Riding Hood in Into the Woods, and we would like to invite all of you to come see our show on Thursday, Friday, and Sunday, all at 7 p.m., and then also on Sunday at 2 p.m.
Awesome.
Thank you. And now we would like to welcome Miss Mandy Powers.
Oh, yay! Thank you all so much for coming. Welcome. That's probably not how you expected to open up our candidate forum, but we think it's so special to be able to recognize our amazing students who put in so much hard work and did this amazing background for our candidate forum. Not really. They have a show this weekend, but it will make for really great pictures and probably lots of comments when we post the video, but that's okay. I am all about it. Tonight's the opportunity for our community to come together, to stay informed, and hear directly from those seeking to serve Dawson County. My name is Mandy Power. I'm the very proud president and CEO of the Dawson County Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for being here tonight and your interest in our community and its leadership. On behalf of the Dawson County Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors, I would like to thank our candidates for being here tonight, those of you who have made time to be here, and their willingness to serve our community. I know it's not a decision that you all take lightly. I would also like to thank our Advocacy Committee who put in long hours and hard work for organizing this evening's forum. We also want to recognize our advocacy partner for this event, the 400 North Board of Realtors, who are always amazing partners and committed to advocacy in our community as well. The offices we have represented here tonight on stage are the Dawson County Board of Commissioners, District 3, Georgia State House, District 9, and Georgia State Senate, District 51. As the Chamber and the voice of business in Dawson County, we work every day to support a strong economic environment, workforce development, including partnerships with our school system, and responsible growth that contribute to the high quality of life for our community and citizens. Tonight's forum is an opportunity to hear directly from the candidates on these important issues. Candidates are seated by office, and they are in alphabetical order by last name. Opening statements will follow that order, and each question will rotate accordingly. We will complete each office in full before moving to the next. For this forum, each candidate will have 3 minutes for your opening statement, 2 minutes to respond to each question, and we do have 4 questions for each position, and 2 minutes for your closing statement. Candidates have not been provided these questions in advance. They can all attest to that, I'm sure. Our timekeepers here in the front are Jessica Grigsby, our Director of Membership, and Anna Grafin, who's our Director of Events and Marketing. Jessica will provide time warnings. She'll give you a 1-minute warning, 30 seconds, 10 seconds, and then stop. So you'll be able to round it out and conclude your statement. We will strictly enforce these times, so let's be respectful to the times that we are given, because we have a lot of questions and a lot of candidates and we want to hear from everyone. So we're going to kick it off. We're going out of order, but symmetry makes sense on the stage. But we're going to start with our Board of Commissioner District 3. So we'll begin with opening statements. You will each have 3 minutes, and we will begin with Ricky Boyett. You can hold it. You can pick it up and hold it, Ricky. That way everyone can hear you clearly.
My name is Ricky Boyett. I am running, hopefully, to be Commissioner of District 3. In my career as a property consultant for a property management company, I do a lot of developer turnover consulting as well. And I think that my career, the 30 years I put into it, and I've seen so much of the negative downsides of development and stuff, it would make me a great candidate for this position. I know where the good developer projects come together. I know when there's bad pitfalls, and I'm usually the one they send out to remedy all these problems. I consider myself a problem solver, not a gatekeeper, and that's really my professional life. I feel that Dawson County is at a crossroads. Growth isn't just coming, it's here. It's not whether we grow, but how we grow. Will we preserve the character that makes this county special, or will we lose to short-term decisions and overdevelopment? To protect our future, we need leadership focused on three things. Control growth, growth that should pay for itself, should never be subsidized by the people already here. Protecting land, reckless rezoning. Once rezoning gets done, the land's developed, we lose that land forever. If we're not, you never get it back. And I think the Dawson County deserves a very strong land use policy, one that is strictly enforced. I do know there will be considerations here and there, but it shouldn't be on a everyday or every other developer exceptions being made. I think when exceptions are made consistently, then at that point, the community loses trust in the local government. And I think that's where we're at tonight. I really do. And fiscal responsibility, you work hard for your money, I work hard for my money, and we deserve a government that plans for long term and just not are forced into tax increases. My commitment is simple to the people who already live here. Come first, our landowners, our homeowners, small business owners. Never feel like they're being pushed aside for special interest. Thanks.
Thank you, Ricky.
Do you want me to just start?
Absolutely.
My name's Alexa Bruce. I'm currently the District 3 Commissioner, and I do want to say I commend Ricky for running. I think it's very important for people who have some concerns or see that they want change to step into this role. I think that's a big deal, and I absolutely commend him on that. So I'm glad he's here. I will kind of touch on actually a couple of things that he said because I think they're important. When you talk about growth, which I know is most of our citizens' concern, we have had a lot of growth, and I know that a lot of people have been seeing what's on the news lately. We're, I think, number 9 fastest growing county. I just want to kind of hit on that. The board that I'm on right now, because you have to remember you're not just one person, you're elected as an individual, but you're elected onto a board of 5 people. And to see any type of change with the board, you have to have 3 that agree, right? So you have to take that into consideration when you are looking at change. And with the growth that we're having, that growth is coming from subdivisions and developments that have been voted on 10 years ago, 7 years ago, 6 years ago maybe. All of those people are moving into those developments that have been passed. Unfortunately, we can't do anything about things that were passed in the past. What we can do is how we move forward, and this board has got a really good grip on that. We'll be opening the comp plan back up. We have made huge changes to our future land use ordinance, which helps with density. We have rolled back taxes every year until this year, but we kept them the same. We are really mitigating a lot of the issues that are happening that people are concerned about. Just as a small tidbit, I'm in my 3.5 year of my 4-year term, and we have only passed 1 residential development. We know, we live here, we are citizens in this community. I know that growth is an issue. We know that growth is an issue. That is something that we are standing firm on. And Ricky made a comment about, not enforcing it. No, we are absolutely enforcing it. We are currently in a lawsuit because we declined something and they're suing us because of it. We are absolutely making sure that those things are enforced. We will stand on our comp plan and we will stand on that future land use. And I want to make sure that the comp plan is reopened and handled even better this time to make sure that some of those zonings are corrected so that certain things can't come in. I want to put a stop to rental developments, which is crushing us. So thank you for the support, and I appreciate the time.
All right, thank you so much for your opening statements. The first question we have is about growth. Dawson County is growing quickly. What is your specific plan to manage that growth while preserving the character of our community? We will begin with Commissioner Bruce, and remember, these are 2 minutes to answer the questions.
as I was just saying. So basically, every 5 years, we are made to open the comp plan. I did try to continue a moratorium last year to open up the comp plan earlier, but the board decided that it was best if we just handled some other things and opened up the comp plan when it was time. So next year we'll begin opening that comp plan back up, kind of preparing for that. That's one of the biggest things that we can to mitigate growth, right? So we decide what zonings we want. We eliminate the zonings that we don't want. We got feedback from a lot of citizens through a survey, and we're taking that survey serious. It went to every single landowner in the county, and whether or not you participated, it did go to everybody. And so what we're doing with that is we're going to take that, we use that to help us in the comp plan, right? So these certain zonings we don't want. There are certain zonings that you do want. We do have to have some zonings. We do have to have an economy in Dawson County, but we have really put a lot of the commercial growth to 400 corridor because it is what can handle it. I know it feels like it can't, but we have finally are slowly getting a hold on infrastructure now that T-SPLOST passed, and we will be using essentially the comp plan and the future land use ordinance to kind of direct growth in the way that Dawson County wants to see it. So more of a proactive approach versus a reactive approach, which is what's been used in the past. I think that, like I said, we have a really good handle on it right now, and we can only make forward progress from here.
Thank you. If we could just hold the applause to the very end. I appreciate your enthusiasm, though. That is incredible. Mr. Boyett, do you need me to repeat the question? Okay. Hold on, I moved my pages on. Let's see. Dawson County is growing quickly. What is your specific plan to manage that growth while preserving the character of our community?
I think Dawson County needs to plan for smart growth that doesn't, put the burden of the growth onto the taxpayers of Dawson County. And I think that goes back to what we touched on a minute ago with land use and a real strict land use. I'm not sure about what got passed 6, 7, 8 years ago, but I think we all seen like the residential rental neighborhood being built on 400, and 400 is the commercial corridor of the county. And now that area that was zoned as commercial is going to be mixed use, and I don't think that was ever intended originally for that space, but that's where it's at now. And so I think that smart land development is very, very important. And I want to say if it was 7 years ago when these decisions were made or last week, but if you're constantly making exceptions for land use and that becomes the norm, and again, that's going to diminish the public's trust in the government for the city. I think that's where we're at today. Thank you.
Perfect. Well, I can definitely tell that you both are meeting with your constituents because these questions came from the community, and the next question is about land use, funny enough. But as Dawson County continues to grow, decisions around land use play a critical role in shaping the future of our community. How do you approach land use planning, and what role should public input, including when appropriate, a public vote, play when considering changes? And we will begin with Mr. Boyett.
I think having a land use plan is very important. I think it's about the 5th time I said that tonight, but if we're going to vary away from the land use plan that already exists, before we do that, I think it should be put out to the community for a vote. I don't think that anything should be planned without public opinion on changing land use. I think it's very important that, we do it, we really hold it to a standard, and we need to set the standards and stop making the changes that allow developers to come in here and get what they want and then put a burden on the communities. I think that every developer needs to pay for their own infrastructure, their own services that they get, their own roads that they get. I don't think any neighborhood should be built that cannot support buses to drive into the neighborhood to pick up the kids. I think it's terrible that we load and unload kids off of Highway 9, Highway 53, and we have neighborhoods that we cannot pull buses into to pick up children. There's no designated spot for these people. Mothers and fathers are dropping kids off on a line of traffic up on the highway. I think these need to be designated spots built by the developer and pre-planned for the people that live here in Dawsonville. There's no reason why we can't build something that actually works for our community. Thank you.
Commissioner Bruce, do you need me to repeat the question?
No, I think I'm good. Thank you. So I made some notes here. In September of 2025, so this past September, the BOC approved growth management code changes to land use and development regulations so that we could slow down growth and require developments to have larger lots for single family residences, much less multifamily, which has been in the past. And then we've also required traffic impact studies to gauge impact so that Public Works can use those study results to require project-specific road improvements. So with that being said, a lot of that stemmed from the survey that we did with the community, and they wanted bigger lots, not as much density as what we've been seeing. And so we took that and we ran with it. So we've made lots wider. We've made them deeper. We've extended the driveway length, specifically all in the code or in the growth management code, which is the future land use code. And we've done that, one, after listening to community input. So I want to reiterate the fact that we did a survey that was sent out to all Dawson County landowners. Whether they participated is the problem. It's very hard to reach the entire county, but we did what we could, even paid to get it in all of those mailers to make sure that everyone had a voice when it came to this specifically, because we know that your voices are important. We want to hear them and we want to actually read and know what you have to say. So we did that, that was really an idea of mine because I had to think of how we could actually reach each person. So we took those land widths from 55, the parcels from 55 to 85, and like I said, we've deepened them. Those are big changes that we made based on your input to be able to put into our land use. So I agree that absolutely you should have input. The land use is something that you should be communicating with us so that we make the right decision for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Question 3. What are your thoughts on term limits for this position, and how do you think they affect leadership, accountability, and the ability to serve the community long term, whether that be positively or negatively? And we will begin with Commissioner Bruce.
So I am, in case you don't know, the term is 4 years for commissioner, and there is no current limit. You can continue to run. I do think that one term is too short. I think you're really just starting to get into it. We attend classes through ACCG, and you learn a lot at those classes. I'm actually leaving for one on Wednesday this week through Sunday. And I'm in my, like I said, I'm in my 4th year, and I'm just now, I got my initial certification. Now I'm working on a specialty certification that helps with stuff such as zonings, such as land use, taxes, stormwater, and you can specialize in all sorts of stuff that pertains to government, management, leadership management, park and rec, all of those things. So I think it's super important that everyone runs. I mean, there are some people that have ran one term, they came in, they got what they wanted to do, and they got out. And that's okay. But I think it's very important for you to run at least 2 terms to be able to do the things that you have told your citizens that you're going to work on doing. It just takes that long to get those things accomplished, to work through that comp plan, to work on all these ordinances that we're constantly looking at and constantly trying to update to better benefit the citizens of Dawson County. And you can't really do that in a 1 year or a 1-term limit. So I do think all that to say, my time is running quickly, but basically, yes, I think there's a benefit to at least 2 terms. I think you need to run 2 terms. I think 3 and 4 terms is fine as long as you continue to make the citizen a priority and you're not becoming complacent in the role. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Boyett.
I support 3 term limits. I also would support 2 term limits. I think that when people get in a position and they're in it every day and it's like the same old thing, you cross it, you pass it, you see it, it becomes the normal. I think sometimes new set of eyes, new ideas coming into the county, new methods, new ways to do things is a whole lot more important for a commission, a board of 5. I think everybody kind of gets complacent with what they're doing. They get in a rut. They're not really a rut, but it's like the normal. This is what we're doing. This is norm. This is acceptable. And you need someone that comes in every few years and puts fresh ideas on the table. And I think that's very important.
Thank you very much. You can go ahead and hang on to that mic. You are up next. This is your last question from the community. What is your perspective on the role of the local option sales tax, and how do you weigh its use compared to relying on the maintenance and operations budget to fund county projects?
I would be for a tax hike if it was capped or limited more or less to just the county work. I would have to see the budget, to be honest with you, to be totally on board with it. But I do know the county does need tax increases, so I would say I would support a small hike.
Thank you.
Do you mind asking it again?
Absolutely. What is your perspective on the role of the local option sales tax, and how do you weigh its use compared to relying on maintenance and operations budget to fund county projects?
So I'm a huge proponent on all of the 1% taxes. So I'm going to speak a little more broadly on multiple. I think SPLOST, LOST, T-SPLOST are all huge for this community. They fund so much of what the services that we're able to provide to all of you, and it enables us to not increase taxes because it takes that burden off of you. I think I may get this wrong, Mandy, so don't kill me for this, but I want to say it was like close to 90% of the funds that we take in for those are from people outside of Dawson County. So that largely affects us but doesn't burden us. If they're going to come in here anyway and they're going to drive through our county, since we seem to be the gateway to all the other communities, might as well have them spend money while they're here, and then we get the money from that. So each of those are huge. I mean, they're huge to our budget. They're huge to this community. They're huge to us as individuals. Some of the projects like fire engines and ambulances, all of the sheriff's vehicles, all of the roads that are currently being done right now are all funded with SPLOST and T-SPLOST. A lot of the buildings that have been put up are SPLOST buildings. So I can't even, huge. If we don't have those 3, then we don't have 80% of what we offer you citizens. So I think it's a huge impact. And they're a big benefit to our community.
You can hang on to it. You're going to close us out. Thank you for your responses and really thinking through the answers to these questions that we have. We're going to move into closing statement. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to share any final thoughts that you have. And we will start with Commissioner Bruce.
Perfect. Thank you. It has been such an honor to serve Dawson County for the last 4 years, and it would be even more of an honor to be able to serve you for the next 4. I do ask for your support. I do know, like I said, I am a citizen here, so I want the best for Dawson County. I raised my children here. I used to work for Dawson County Public Works, so I've been an employee. I've been on that side of this role and on that side of the government. And, you know, one of my biggest things is backing the employees for Dawson County so that we can train them and keep them here and make them better so that we can all serve you guys better. I know that growth is an issue, and we are constantly talking about ways to control it. We have gotten rid of apartments and townhomes, and we know that those things are important for some, so we have them, but we have eliminated the zoning that allows for more. We hear you guys, and we really try to come up with ways to serve you in the ways that you've been asked to be served, and I think that that's important. So I do ask for your support. I am an open book. If there's anything that you want to know or you have issues with, you can always call me, find me, meet with me, email me, Facebook me. That tends to be the way these days. But I do ask for your support. I ask for another term so that I can continue to be blessed in serving each of you. And I hope that you find value in what I'm doing. I'm not scared to stand against the grain. I have no problem asking the hard questions. I don't enjoy it, but I don't have a problem asking them. And it's just been a blessing to serve you all. So I appreciate you.
Whenever you're ready.
My commitment's simple. The people who live here already come first. The landowners, the homeowners, the business owners. Businesses should never feel like they're being pushed aside for outside interest. My name is Ricky Boyett. I'm your neighbor. I understand the business's development and the values of this community. Let's put our residents first. I ask you for your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to our Board of Commissioner District 3 candidates for participating in tonight's forum. You being here is a testament to what you're putting in running for office, and we are thankful to have candidates run for office to want to serve our amazing community. So thank you so much for being here. You can applaud if you want. All right, we are going to transition to the Georgia State House District 9 candidates. Just a reminder, for this forum, candidates are seated in alphabetical order by last name. Each candidate will have 3 minutes to introduce yourselves, 2 minutes to respond to each question, and 2 minutes for a closing statement. So we will begin opening statements, and we will begin with Mr. Chris Dockery.
Thank you. And I'd like to say thank you to the Chamber of Commerce for putting this together. Certainly a phenomenal job you guys do. Thankful for all the candidates that are here to put yourself in this position to seek to better your community is certainly commendable. But most of all, thank you to the voters and the citizens of Dawson County for taking an interest to be here tonight. My name is Chris Dockery. I'm a resident of Lumpkin County. I've lived in the 9th District my entire life. I've been married to the same woman for 32 years. We have 3 children. 2 have graduated from college. 1 is currently a junior at University of North Georgia. And I'm a small business owner. I own a small construction company. I've owned it for 30 years. We design and build custom homes. We don't do development. I want to make sure that everybody understands that. No development. So design and build custom homes. I'm a veteran. I retired as a lieutenant colonel in 2017. I started my Army career in 1985 as a private. Went to Fort Knox, Kentucky, went through basic training, worked my way through the ranks, and retired as a lieutenant colonel. When I first got out of college in 1989, I served 6 years in law enforcement. So got a real appreciation for public safety and what they do for our communities. So I'm certainly proud of that. Most of all, I think what is important is for over 30 years, I've been in public service, whether it's serving our community, our nation. I've been involved in public service, and I'm proud of that record. I think it's a proven record that differentiates me from the other candidates is because I've been involved. I've chaired the Board of Commissioners in Lumpkin County for 13 years. I've worked with Mike Berg, who's here with us tonight, Billy Thurman, Chris Gaines, Alexa. They're all familiar with me. We communicate a lot. I know the needs in Dawson County, and we continue to work to better the 9th District. So I would ask for your support, and I look forward to the questions tonight. Thank you very much.
I knew I was going to do that at some point tonight. Mute myself and just start talking. We're going to move to Mr. Wayne Rowan.
Hi there, Wayne Rowan. I'm not a politician. I'm not a lawyer. I'm a stage 4 cancer survivor. I'm doing this because I want to serve the community. I want to hear from you, and I've heard from a lot of you. I spent time on the road talking to businesses, talking to individuals about what the state can do for the needs of Dawson County, Lumpkin County, and White County. That's the whole district, if you did not know. My competitor actually has served 14 years as county chairman in a county that, one, has done nothing for impact fees. They have 0 impact fees. We have impact fees here. They're capped out. The state has a maximum. I asked Chris Gaines about it. He says, yeah, we've maxed them out. Go, why was that? Because the state does. So I want to eliminate the maximum so that way the counties can actually raise those impact fees. They can actually not have the individuals pay for the growth that's coming. It's for the people who come here pay for their own growth. I want to be able to have that opportunity for the county commissioners. My competitor says that his #1 priority is reform property taxes. Well, one, he's been county commissioner for 14 years, has not done a thing for reforming those property taxes. What I would like to see, what I support, is a freeze on your values of your houses right now. That way, whenever a tax assessor comes, even though they want to raise it, they're going to try to raise your taxes by doing that, it's frozen. And so what the county commissioners are going to have to do is they're going to have to increase your millage rate. And increasing those millage rates, they're going to then have to run in the next election on raising your taxes. And I just want to give them the opportunity to do that or not do that. Final thing is fraud. We've seen it all over the United States. I want to have a whistleblower program to have people actually make money off of finding the fraud that's in our government throughout the state. If it's state funds and there's fraud, we need to know about it. We need to reward people. I don't care if they make it a living. I want them to do that. Once again, I'm Wayne Rowan. I'm a fighter for you. I'm not a fighter for me. I want to do this for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rowan. Our next candidate is Doug Sherrill.
Thank you. Appreciate you being here tonight. My name is Doug Sherrill. I am a proud husband, father, grandfather, a coach. I've been a former county commissioner in Lumpkin County. And I told the story the other day of the chamber. It was in 1995 when my wife and I drove up 400 and I went to the payphone booth at the end of 400 and called to get a job. And tonight, the reason I'm here has a lot to do with that phone call. Because we talk about growth, we talk about infrastructure, we talk about taxes. I hope I can answer all those questions effectively. But there's things we're not talking about that we need to discuss tonight, and that has to do with jobs. And I hope we have time to discuss that tonight. I'm opposed to the state mandates, so many state mandates that are handed down to local government. We have a near crisis on our hands that we just don't realize it's right in front of our eyes. Today, my wife and I flew back from Florida, and it was a rough trip to say the least. And she said, this is what you call clear sky turbulence. Everything looks beautiful outside, but on the inside of that plane, you're praying that the Lord allows you to survive. And so in our community, there's a lot of things that look great, but there's things in the economy, there's things in the tax structure, there's things in the job market that need fixed, and I believe I have the ability and the ideas to help our community move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we will move to Roger Smith.
Thanks. My name is Roger Smith, and a little bit about me to begin with. I did not grow up here. I didn't move here until 1955, so I'm a relative latecomer. I grew up south of Dahlonega. My father was a college professor, and I camped and fished the rivers around here. After a couple of years of college, I went to work for Fulton County DFACS as a caseworker in the projects in Northwest Atlanta. Stayed with DFACS, retired 30 years later as the Director of Planning and Budget, responsible for 8,000 employees and a budget of $1.2 billion. I understand how state government works, and I have seen state government fail. 4 of those years I spent as deputy director of Gwinnett County DFACS, which was the fastest growing county in the U.S. for all 4 of those years. And I'll get a chance to talk about that a little bit later, I bet. After retirement, my late wife and I spent 10 years on the road in an RV trying to find the best place in the United States to settle down. And surprise, it turned out to be just about exactly 3 miles from where I grew up. I treasure what these mountains can be if we grow thoughtfully and responsibly. Georgia has had a growth at any cost mentality, which for many counties, including Dawson County, means that there are profits without livability. We need to learn that businesses succeed when we have strong, healthy communities. I checked. Last week in Dawson County, there were 126 homeless children, 126 kids who do not know where they will sleep that night. Yet we choose to fund data centers. Too often, politicians represent Peachtree Street and Wall Street. If elected, I will work for the local folks. Campaign funds are great, but they are golden handcuffs. Once you take the money, you have to respond to the people who gave you the money. I spent 30 years serving the least among us, the poor, the hungry, the homeless. I think that experience, plus my deep roots in the community and my broad experience, qualifies me for this job. I'd like to ask for your vote.
Thank you very much. We will ask our first question from the community. As a state legislator, you're representing District 9, including Dawson County, but you're also voting on issues that affect all of Georgia. How do you balance representing the needs of your district with the broader interests of the state? And Wayne Rowan will start us off.
Well, as you heard, what I talked about earlier about the impact fees, I'm trying to make that statewide. That will also benefit you, but it'll benefit the rest of the state. Same thing with freezing your housing costs. Same thing for making sure that their fraud is being taken care of. If the fraud is gone, that means less taxes are going to have to be done, or hopefully you'll get a check back like you're supposed to be getting, because we have a very large excess funds in our county, in our state. And that should be a check back to you because that's your money. And if there was a deficit, we would raise taxes, or taxes would be raised on you to be able to come up and fill in that deficit. Myself, I love Dawson County. I sat and one of the first persons I talked to was John over here, your mayor, and we talked about, hey, what can we do to make, what I'm jealous of is Lumpkin County has actually a really nice downtown. We have tractor trailers going through our downtown. Why don't, and John goes, hey, we're trying to work on a bypass. I'm going, great idea. Let's try to do a bypass. So yes, we're going to try to pull funds from DOT to be able to help 53, help 400, help 460. Thank you.
Same question for you, Doug.
So the question was, how do we balance local and state priorities? I'm a guy who believes in localism. Localism means if I can make the decision and resolve my own problem, I should do that. If I can't do it, my family should do it. If my family can't do it, my church should help me do it. If my church can't do it, my local government can do it. And it goes up to the federal government. We certainly have unfunded mandates. We have too many laws on the books from the state. Balance takes leadership. And what I want to bring to this office is leadership, not the leader as a personality. And here's what I mean by that. Leadership takes multiple people. It's not one individual. What I can tell you around the state is that taxes matter to everyone. My taxes have gone up in Lumpkin County in the past 10 years, 62%. How can I, as an individual, predict what I need to fund in my own home next year? How do businesses predict the instability of the taxation. That is a universal problem in the state that we need to address. Now, I will say that the sales tax is regressive. It's great in Dawson County. It may not be all that great in other counties and communities. By regressive, I mean the cost of goods, the cost of a gallon of milk. If I make $100,000, it's cheaper for me to buy the milk than it is if you're on a lower fixed income. We at the state need to work on these issues, balance that issue based on location. If we could cap property taxes in Lumpkin and Dawson County, I would do it today. It needs to be done. Taxes are out of control. If we could work on job creation in Lumpkin County and Dawson County, which I want to do, and the portion of White County that we will represent, that's what I want to do. I want to focus on our district first, and the other issues will come second. Thank you.
I'm going to say something that's going to surprise almost everyone in this room. The state of Georgia has the lowest tax burden on its citizens of any state in the United States. At the same time, the state of Georgia has the highest special interest tax breaks for big businesses who want to move into the state. For years, we've been ranked the #1 place to move a business. And that's because of those special tax breaks and incentives for Fortune 500 companies. What we need to do is start to pay attention to local communities and not listen to Wall Street. I'll give you an example. Last year, Georgia spent $1 billion to help data centers come in. They got $40 million in taxes. Any businessman will tell you that is not a great deal. But this year we raised that to $2.5 billion, the majority of which goes to 3 billionaires, the guys who own Google and Amazon. We need to fix that. One of the problems is there was a bill to change that in the legislature. It failed. Possibly the fact that Georgia Power gave Brian Kemp $1 million had something to do with it. That money trickled down. Some of it ended up in a local campaign, but the bill failed, and we each get to pay $250 per person per year to help bring data centers in. You fix campaign funding, you fix a whole lot of problems. Thanks.
Thank you. And we will finish this question with Chris Dockery.
So the question was, where does your loyalty lie, with the state or the district? If there's a conflict there, I can tell you 100% that my loyalty will lie with the 9th District. My opponent here gave me credit for serving 14 years. I only served 13. And I'm glad that you are jealous of Lumpkin County. That kind of made me feel good after he talked about how bad we were up there. When you go back to impact fees and you talk about that, that is a local issue. I do not want the state of Georgia coming down and telling me as a community that I need to have impact fees, or they need to be this, or they need to be that. That's what your local elected officials are elected to do. What works in Dawson County does not work in Lumpkin County, vice versa, and it may not work in White County. So it's up to those local elected officials, the ones that are closer to you, to tell you whether impact fees is a fit for your community, not the state of Georgia. So I will always advocate for House District 9. My other opponent over here talked about the out-of-control taxes in Lumpkin County. I will tell you, when House Bill 581 with a floating homestead exemption passed, the very next meeting, the Board of Commissioners for Lumpkin County passed a resolution not to opt out of House Bill 581 and to recognize that floating homestead exemption. We, like most governments, to be able to make our budget work, have recognized that inflationary value in the property tax system. So we have had to recognize that. But I support House Bill 581. And last but not least, the last time the millage rate was raised in Lumpkin County, Commissioner Sherrill was the District 1 Commissioner, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you voted in favor of that 1 mil increase in Lumpkin County. That is the last time that we raised the millage rate in Lumpkin County. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to question 2. There are many opportunities at the state level to advocate for funding and resources that can directly make an impact in our local communities like Dawson County. What is your approach to securing funding and resources for Dawson County, and how will you ensure you remain accessible and accountable to your constituents? And that we will start with Doug Sherrill.
Thank you for that. I appreciate the berating by Chris. The fact of the matter is, when I did increase the mill rate, I was a proponent of getting county workers out of poverty. Our deputies were on shift making $8 and $9 an hour in Lumpkin County. We could not afford to have good quality employees come to Lumpkin County. So absolutely, I supported that. That was a great initiative. The problem has been since then is, if you look at the stats, the government salaries have outpaced the private sector in both Lumpkin and Dawson County. It is a problem in our economy when the private sector has a lower median income than the local governments do. It's not to say that our local government shouldn't be paying our government officials what they deserve and what they have now. They should. The problem is they focused on government economy and not the private economy. And that's where I hope that we can talk on a one-on-one basis. Ask me your question again, please, because I had to answer to the...
No, you have not, but that's okay. What is your approach to securing funding and resources for Dawson County, and how will you ensure you remain accessible and accountable to your constituents?
Absolutely. It has to do with relationships. I build relationships and networks. I have done that my entire career. I'm a local business owner. I have worked with the cities and the counties both. I can bring the development authorities together, the joint development authorities together, the developers together, the private sector together, the public sector together, and we can work together. We need to build relationships. We are pointing fingers saying, well, they shouldn't do this, well, they shouldn't do that. This is not a job to bark orders. This is a job to go down and join 180 other individuals and build relationships to bring money back to this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Roger Smith, let me know if you need me to repeat the question.
Please do.
Sure. There are many opportunities at the state level to advocate for funding and resources that can directly impact local communities like ours. What is your approach to securing funding and resources for Dawson County, and how will you ensure you remain accessible and accountable to your constituents?
It's a great question. I think I partially answered this earlier when I talked about $2.5 billion in state funds that are going off to data centers. And that's just one of the tax breaks. The state of Georgia gives the movie industry $1 billion a year, and the largest recipient of that is a billionaire named Tyler Perry. There is money available. The secret is to use a population-based formula and a needs-based formula to distribute that money to cities and counties. There are a couple of places where it could be used. $250 per person to the Dawson County Development Authority for cross-county projects involving all three counties would go a long way toward fixing the chronic resource shortage that we face. It's not a lack of money. It's a lack of political will to put the money in the communities where it's needed. There's some innovative programs out there. There's public funding for conservation easements. The folks in the western part of the county, who actually aren't part of my district, of this district, are the place where the farms are, where the lands need protection. We could use public money to purchase conservation easements to preserve the rural character of that part of the county. There are other options for local development, local housing, local child care. Many of the employers here know child care availability is a real restriction on keeping good employees. We just have to look at where the money needs to be used.
Thank you very much. Mr. Dockery?
So I've got to agree with Mr. Sherrill on one issue. It's about relationships. So the question was, what do you do to secure funding for your district? And that is 100% about those relationships. And you're right, you have to make those, but I have those relationships. I have those relationships already built, not only with the local government, but at the state level as well. And I can give you some examples. We got $17 million in Lumpkin County to build a water treatment facility, a sewage facility that we needed for the 400 corridor. That came from the state's budget. That came from the Georgia Environmental Finance Authority, and we also used the ARPA funds that we had locally to help leverage that. So that's an example of those relationships that you have to get things done. We get over $6 million a year for our roads and bridges. And we do that because our citizens agreed with a transportation special purpose local option sales tax. I also came down to Dawson County to help people understand how important that is. So when you have that local money that you can put toward those projects, it helps you to leverage that money at the state level, and that helps as well. So you have to have those relationships, but you also have to be willing to put skin in the game at the local level to show people that you're serious, and then you have to deliver on those promises. So relationships is very important. I have those. I served as the Board of Managers representative for District 2 for the Association of County Commissioners, and I represented 13 counties in Northeast Georgia. So I have those relationships all through Northeast Georgia, not only with the local officials, but also the lawmakers at the state level that represent those counties. Thank you.
Well, two things. First off, I'm a listener. I actually listened to our county commissioners, and they said they were telling how they were trying to increase the state highways and how we can best do that. And they said, well, typically, if county funds were going with matching or going with state funds, there's a very good chance that you're going to get qualified to be able to have that. And that's what I would like to do. I'd like to bring people together and bring that to it. I got to give it to Will Wade. Will brought in $100 million to buy 10,000 acres called Dawson Forest. And City of Atlanta, who owns that, said no. I just talked to somebody this weekend. There are logging trucks going in and out. Somebody actually talked to our news saying, hey, what's with the logging trucks? I don't know. But I have talked to people about trying to make that a state park, wildlife management area, anything to be able to help our citizens. We need to maintain these things for our future generations. It may not be a state park by the time I'm out of this office, it's in 6 years because I believe in term limits, but it may be something that our children can have, and that's what I like to preserve. And so I am working behind the scenes. I'm talking to the Greater Home Builders Association. I'm talking to people on the Trees Save Atlanta to try to save our trees, let alone the trees in Atlanta. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm using what contacts I have, but I'm also a bulldog. Will tell you, I will bulldog the heck out of you. I'm a fighter for it, and I'm a fighter for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rowan. Question 3. You knew it was coming. Property taxes have been a major concern for many Georgia residents, and recent legislation has proposed limiting annual increases to around 3% or the rate of inflation. What is your position on these types of property tax caps? And how would you balance providing relief to taxpayers while maintaining funding for local services? In addition, what would your plan be to address any potential funding shortfalls without shifting the burden to our local businesses? And we will start with Roger Smith.
Thanks. I got the good question. I oppose the efforts in what is now Senate Bill 33 to cap the property taxes. What we have in the state of Georgia is a funding system that needs a total overhaul. It was based on property taxes, state income tax, and sales tax. And we've got politicians who want to stand up and say, we're going to eliminate the property tax. And we've got politicians who want to eliminate the state income tax. We can't do it all. And if we try to piecemeal it every 2 years by just putting a patch on things and kind of let's satisfy this constituent group, it's not going to work. The current Senate bill that passed is in effect a tax cut for the school system. This has been tried elsewhere, and it doesn't tend to work. So what we need is not just little short-term solutions. We need a good hard look at how the state of Georgia pays its bills. And you can't do it just every 2 years, nibble away at one constituency or another. It takes some hard work. And politicians don't like hard work. They like 2-year turnaround on projects. And this is not one that takes a 2-year turnaround, but it needs to be addressed. We can't live forever with folks saying, we got to eliminate the income tax and we got to cut property taxes. That's not a solution.
Thank you. We'll move to Chris Dockery.
So thank you for that question. I'm going to go back to House Bill 581 that I talked about earlier. When House Bill 581 passed, it gave school systems and local governments the option to opt out of that cap that's based on the Consumer Price Index. So most school systems opted out, a lot of local governments opted out. And I said earlier, in Lumpkin County, as soon as House Bill 581 passed, we passed a resolution that we were not going to opt out, that we were going to recognize that cap to the CPI. And I think that's important that we do that. Your question as to how does that relate to local businesses, this is where it gets really interesting. When you cap the property tax on homesteaded properties, you don't do anything to control the budget of local government. You don't do anything to set that. So what you're doing is you're doing a tax shift. So when you allow that homesteaded property to be artificially deflated, then that local government that has to have X number of dollars has to get that money from somewhere else. Where are they going to get that money? From commercial properties, from people who rent, because if you have a rental property, that does not qualify for a homestead exemption. So if you're that landlord, in order to pay those taxes, you're going to go up on that rent. So the very people who need it the most, our business community, and also those people who are trying to get ahead and get started, are not going to be able to afford that, because you're shifting that tax burden away from the people who own homes to businesses and also those people who rent. So we have to find solutions for our tax system. I will say this, I think the way forward is to look at how can we get more people to contribute to funding local government instead of just people that own property. Thank you.
Mr. Rowan.
Well, I already mentioned that we need to freeze your home values for tax purposes. I'm sure Mr. Sherrill did not increase his own taxes by 62%. I think that was because of the value of the home kept on going up, and they were automatically raising his taxes, and I want to stop that. I want the millage rate to be the way that the commissioners would have to increase your taxes. Also, if you're trying to raise funds, why try to put the onus on everybody who owns a home and pays property taxes on the new development that's coming in? I'm not saying you have to raise your impact fees. What I'm saying is I'd like to get rid of the maximum. And that way the counties can do it. South Georgia cannot have zero income tax. Lumpkin County can have zero income tax or impact fees. But what I'd like to do is have Dawson County to be able to have that availability, to be able to raise those impact fees, to make the people who are moving here pay for the growth that is coming here. And just pay for their own growth, pay for their own schools, pay for their own police, teachers, their own roads. I want that done. I'm tired of having to pay for that. I moved here. Yes, I'm only here 6 years, but I moved here purposely because I wanted not to make this like where I came from, Gwinnett County, where I moved in 1987, and I saw Peachtree Industrial Boulevard go from a 2-lane road to 6-lane road. So I want to keep that from happening here. And so I am trying to do that here. I didn't buy a new home. I bought a home that's 40 years old. It was built in 1985. I'm sorry, it's 1,700 square feet. I'm not trying to increase the level of impact fees for everything. I just want the availability of the county commissioners to be able to do that. Thank you.
I can unequivocally say I endorse and support capping property taxes. I heard my colleague over here say that it's just a shift. That means there's no interest in cuts. We have to make substantial cuts in government to sustain where we're heading. Local governments can be funded in other ways, and one of the best ways to fund local government is through economic development. It's through the private sector. It's not growing local government, it's growing the private sector. I must say that how are these shifts going to work? One has proposed this impact fee. I oppose impact fees. I think impact fees are a taxation without representation. There is a demographic in our community that can't buy homes. Home prices are through the roof because home builders are seeing a large portion of profit now as materials have gone down. In Lumpkin County, $330,000 is the base starting price on a home. And then we add to it an impact fee. You think that the developer is paying the impact fee. They don't pay the impact fee. It's a pass-through. They're passing it on to the individual who's buying the home. So when we're talking about cutting taxes, we truly need to cut. During COVID, what was so interesting is I had to do major cuts. You had to do major cuts. I called on the local government in Lumpkin County to give back some of the COVID money to the people. Suspend business taxes or suspend business permit fees. Did that happen? No. It was spent on pet projects and things when no one was looking. Money was not well spent. Yes, we need to cap property taxes in Lumpkin and Dawson County. House Bill 581, I am certainly glad that Lumpkin County local government opted in. I spoke to the BOE, they opted out, but it's interesting that it took a state law to require the county government to say it's actually a tax increase if we take the additional valuation on the property without actually raising the millage rate. It took a state law to say that. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, my phone was muted, or my mic was muted. Thank you. Okay. Question 4. School systems across the district the district you will represent, vary greatly in size and funding, and decisions at the state level can have a significant impact on their ability to maintain services. What is your understanding of the difference in school funding across the district you would represent, and how will you support public education while ensuring these systems do not lose critical funding? Additionally, how will you work with your local school leaders to understand their needs and advocate for them at the state level? And Chris, Dockery, you're up first.
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think there's, when you look at school systems, you see all these education, special purpose, local option sales tax, like this beautiful building that we have here that is created or funded through sales tax. But then your maintenance and your operation of these facilities, the staffing, can't be supported with that sales tax. So what I would suggest is that we look at a way to be able to supplement the school system's operating fund through a sales tax, but it doesn't need to be called a special purpose sales tax because it does not meet a special purpose. It is solely to supplement that maintenance and operational costs of local school systems. So again, I think the more people that are contributing to funding our schools and our local governments, then the burden for each one of those individuals that are contributing would be a little bit smaller than just depending mainly on those property taxes to fund those schools. So we've got to look at that. And also the school system, there's a lot of school systems that get money in, and then that money is shifted to other communities. I know Gwinnett County receives a lot of money from Lumpkin County citizens to supplement their schools down there. So I think we have to take a hard look at that, and the money that's in your community needs to stay in that community as well. So certainly look at creative ways to help fund those schools, and we've got to support education. Is certainly important. Over 50% of the state's budget goes toward that education already. So we've got to find a way. We're 38th in the nation as it ranks in education, and we've got to come up better. We can't just keep throwing money at it and expect the same results. So got to find creative ways to fund our schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rowan?
Well, first off, I am a school choice believer. Unfortunately, we can't have school choice throughout the entire state. but we can do it for income-based. I would like majority of the money to follow that student. That way we would be able to even out and actually help those kids who want to go to a better school to be able to be educated. As for this property tax and everything else that's going through, they're talking about a sales tax. I don't want a sales tax. Once again, either property tax, sales tax, you're putting the burden back on me. Once again, I want the burden on the people who are bringing that growth. And as we grow, we've got a freaking 250 lot subdivision over there, and that's going to be almost a whole new school, and they're not paying for it. You guys are paying for it.
If I may rephrase the question was, how can we just keep the status quo? That's the question. Government, once they obtain money, they don't want to give it back. The state coffers currently have $16 billion in overtaxed funds. They have overtaxed us, and they want us to come back with an idea of, well, what should we do with the money? Well, the first thing is you need to explain to the taxpayer why you overtaxed us. QBE is the formula in schools. Schools are probably the most important entity in this discussion. They're worried when we talk about tax cuts, how are we going to manage the tax cut? I have a master's degree in public administration from the University of North Georgia. I understand policy implementation, and how to think through unintended consequences. Those are important and they do matter. There's two things that need to happen at the local level. We need to start measuring efficiency and effectiveness. Until you can measure those two things, you need to put a freeze on hiring new administrators, whether it be at the county level or at the school system level. What are we paying these individuals? And that's great. If you make $100,000 and can justify it, that's wonderful. It needs to be measured at the local level. And I will say, as far as EastBloss goes, COVID taught us a lot. One of the things I'd say about EastBloss is we should use a percentage of that to go toward operations, to offset property taxes. Thank you.
Thanks. There are a couple of things I'd like to address here. One is the fact that we have a QBE formula that has not been changed since Ronald Reagan was president in any significant way. But what folks don't mention is the fact that state funding used to take care of 50% of the cost of local schools, and it's now down to 40%. The state is pulling back on funding and shifting those burdens to local property tax payers. The other thing that's happening is we are spending a smaller percentage of our school tax dollars on teachers every year. And I think Doug got into this, that we tend to add layers of supervision because the people aren't working hard enough, and we do need a way to decide what changes need to happen in schools that takes into account what the teachers have to say. Right now, there's an input way for teachers to have a little bit of input on the state government. Local school systems may, but are not required to get the input from teachers as far as how their administrators perform. Folks, those administrators are there to help the teachers, and we need to listen to teachers to figure out the solutions to implement in the classroom, rather than just doing top-down decisions that have to be implemented statewide and then change every 3 years when the winds of change in education change. Georgia has $16 billion in surplus. I need to point out that that never happened until Brian Kemp was governor. He was the first governor in Georgia history to refuse to spend appropriated money. If you look at where the problems are, a lot of times it has to do with campaign donations. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Roger. I have one more question, and then we're going to go to closing statements. But what is one major issue you believe is being overlooked at the state level that impacts our community? And we will start with Wayne.
Yeah, I was surprised on that one. Truthfully, I was thinking of term limits. We all kind of believe in term limits. I'm going to self-term limit myself to 6 years. I'm going to do 6 years. If I can't get done in 6 years what you are asking me to do, then I'll let it for these fellas here to do it, these younger fellas. I would also like term limits on the Congress, on the U.S. Senate, and also on the U.S. Supreme Court. Liberals want term limits on the Supreme Court. Conservatives want term limits on the House and on the Senate. And I would like to just bring those two together. Like I said, I like to bring people together. I like to have a common ground. I think term limits is a thing that would be able to affect us better, because then that way, when they go up to Washington, they will actually look after you instead of looking after their pocketbook.
I can't say that I know exactly what is being neglected at the state as far as how it affects us locally, but I can tell you what is being neglected by most all county governments by default and maybe not even intentionally. And it goes back to jobs. The jobs to housing ratio is what every leader in our community needs to begin to fixate on and understand and study. Lumpkin County's ratio is at a 0.61. A healthy ratio is a minimum of 0.9 to 1.2. What that means is, let me break this down real quickly. If you look at a house, there should be a job that represents that home. 0.61 of the homes in Lumpkin County represent a job. Dawson County is doing better at 0.72. What does that mean? It means that we have shifted the burden of local government onto the homeowners. And until we get a grasp of job improvement and economic development and fund our economic development authorities and in great manner and focus on them in narrative, in speech, and in the chamber, we're going to have this terrible problem of taxation of our homeowners. We need to look at the economy on a grander scale. We need to promote jobs, and they don't just need to be retail. We need to up the median salary of our jobs in our local community. Thank you.
What's being ignored at the state level? I've already mentioned one, which is the $2.5 billion, but that is not being ignored. That has been reviewed and rejected. The decision was made by our legislature that we need to continue to give billionaires money. But there's some other things we need to talk about here. One is environmental concerns. 2 weeks ago, the Forest Service announced that they were going to shift decisions about where to cut timber to state governments. They eliminated all the local forestry labs. They are going to shift the burden of maintaining campgrounds and Forest Service roads to state and local government. What this means is that the Blue Ridge Mountains, which are central to the economy of this whole district, will probably end up with a brown checkerboard of clear cuts across the horizon. My favorite view in North Georgia is driving into Dahlonega, and when you cross the mountains, you see over 60 miles in each direction. Imagine that as a green and brown checkerboard. We need to pay more attention to livable wages. MIT does this neat little thing where you plug in your zip code and it will tell you how much it costs to live for anything from a single working adult to a family with 4 or 5 kids. The survival wage in Dawson County for a single person is $33 an hour. That's what it would take to rent the median apartment. We don't pay that. We need to build an economy that works toward solutions for affordable, healthy communities.
Thank you. And we will wrap up this question with Chris Dockery.
So Mr. Sherrill talked about the 0.61 jobs per household in Lumpkin County. I want to remind you that we have probably one of the most generous senior exemptions in the state in Lumpkin County. And for years, the senior exemption has been outpacing the growth in the digest. I think that can account for a lot of that skewed number that Mr. Sherrill mentioned. Not only that, but we have a university located in Dahlonega, University of North Georgia, and a lot of those homes are rental homes, and the people that live in those homes are not going to have those jobs as well. But I think one thing that's neglected at the state level that we certainly need help with here in the 9th District is transportation. We've made strides. I know Dawson County just passed the T-Splosh, and that's certainly helpful. But it seems as the Department of Transportation for the state of Georgia is always reactive. And I think we need to take a look at that and see if we can make them become more proactive and look at ways to helping with those transportation needs prior to them becoming an issue. I'll tell you a prime example. When Northeast Georgia Medical Center, when we worked with them, when we were able to maintain a hospital in Lumpkin County, the first thing we did is we went to the Department of Transportation and said, we're about to have a hospital right here at the end of 400, and it's going to spark a lot of growth. So we need some help with that intersection. We need to help to increase the flow of traffic, be able to facilitate the flow of traffic through this intersection. And they say, when you have a problem, we'll address it. That's the wrong answer. We need some serious help with transportation in the 9th District. Thank you.
We're going to move into closing statements. So each candidate will have 2 minutes to share any final thoughts or maybe anything we did not address today in our questions. And we will begin with Sherrill.
As we close tonight, let me ask one final question. What kind of leadership does Dawson County need right now? I believe the answer is clear. We need leadership rooted in common sense, courage, and action. Families across Dawson County are working hard, raising children, building businesses, and planning for retirement. They deserve a government that works just as hard for them. They deserve roads that keep pace with growth, responsible budgeting that respects taxpayers, strong schools, safe communities, and leaders who focus on solving problems instead of protecting the status quo. If you're happy with the status quo, there is a candidate in my race you can vote for. But too often in politics, we're given personalities when what we truly need is leadership. Personality can make noise. Leadership makes progress. Personality seeks attention. Leadership accepts responsibility. Personality talks about problems. Leadership gets to work fixing them. This race is not about who can deliver the best line or make the biggest promise. It's about who will do the work, who will ask tough questions, who will stand up for taxpayers, who will plan ahead instead of reacting late, who will protect what makes Dawson County special while preparing wisely for the future. The future of Dawson County should not be something that simply happens to us. It should be something we shape together with intention, with integrity, and with vision. Because the decisions we make now will determine whether the next generation inherits a county with more opportunity, more strength, and the same values that made people love this place in the first place. So I'll leave you with this. What kind of future do we want for Dawson County in the 9th District? And who is ready to lead us there? I ask for your support and vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Roger, whenever you're ready.
Thanks. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. Folks, I am 74 years old. I have seen an awful lot in those 74 trips around the sun, but there are 2 lessons that I think are germane to this discussion today. One is the American taxpayers are united. They want more services and lower taxes. The second thing is every complex social problem has an answer that's simple, cheap, easy to implement, and dead wrong. The secret of success in politics in America today is to pick one of those simple, cheap, wrong answers and just sell the heck out of it. Folks, you deserve better. Much of what you hear from politicians is an equal mixture of hot air and horse manure. We need politicians, candidates who will deal honestly and forthrightly with the issues. If you're going to cut taxes, if you're going to freeze the assessments, tell us how much revenue it costs. Where's the money coming from? Are you cutting services or are you going to raise revenues elsewhere? Be specific. If you're going to do something that cuts $1 million from the tax digest, where's that $1 million coming from? We need adult discussion involving a level of detail that is not common today in the United States. All of my opponents say they're conservative, but that's meaningless in terms of this discussion. There are complex issues that have a limited number of solutions that need to be fully discussed with the taxpayers. We need adult discussion, and I think I'm the candidate to do it. I'd like to ask for your vote.
Thank you very much. All right, Chris Dockery, whenever you are ready.
Ladies and gentlemen, I didn't come here tonight with some prepared, eloquent speech that I was going to read to you. What I did come here tonight with is a lifetime of servant leadership, beginning when I graduated from college in 1985, serving as a police officer, serving this great nation for 32 years, serving for 13 years, 14 according to Wayne, on the Board of Commissioners of Lumpkin County, served on the Water Authority, the Development Authority. I have given back to my community. We have gotten results in Lumpkin County, and we can do the same for the entire 9th District. I'm asking for your vote and your support in the primary on May 19th and the general election in November. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time being here tonight and listening to the issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Let's give these candidates a round of applause.
Excuse me.
Oh, I'm so sorry. So sorry.
I didn't bring
Best for last.
I didn't
So
bring-
sorry. So sorry.
something written down either. So I'm going to tell you this. I'm passionate. I'm a passionate person. I'm passionate about wanting to serve you because I want to fight for you like the way I fought cancer. It's in submission. I fought and I was not afraid to die. I know where I'm going. I'm going to heaven. And I'm not afraid of anything on this world anymore. Well, take that back. My daughter's driving, but that's another subject. But I want to do that. I want to fight for you. If you want to go along, get along, establishment, politicians, you've got your other choices. That's not going to be me. If you want someone who wants to fight for you, fight for the taxpayer, fight for Dawson, Lumpkin, and White counties, I am your person. Because I've got my phone number on the back of this card here. I want to hear from you. My volunteers are going to be back here. They're going to be handing these things out to you. When I win, I want to hear from you. I want to go, hey, I'm going to help you help Dawson County. Once again, I'm Wayne Rowan. I want your vote. I want to earn your vote. I'm a fiscal conservative. You're going, wait a minute, Wayne. You're wearing a handmade Italian Valentino suit. Goes, how in the heck are you a fiscal conservative? I'm going, because I believe in Clark Howard. I went to a consignment store and paid for it for $50. So I want to be the fiscal conservative for you in Dawson County. Thank you very much. Wayne Rowan, vote next week. It starts next week. Thank you.
Now let's give all the candidates a round of applause. I am sincerely sorry, Wayne, but thank you for being a great sport for that. I did not do that on purpose. Well, thank you to all the candidates for the State House District 9 for participating in tonight's forum. Thank you for your passion. I don't know about y'all, but I could hear the passion coming from each and every one of you, and that's who we really need running for office, or those who are passionate and willing to serve our community. So I really appreciate that from each and every one of you tonight. Now we're going to transition to the State Senate District 51. Thank you both gentlemen for your patience. Just a reminder for this forum, candidates are seated in alphabetical order by last name. I am sorry there are two that are not represented here today, but that is okay. We will hear from the two that showed up and invested in Dawson County. We're very happy about that. Each candidate will have 3 minutes to introduce themselves, 2 minutes to respond to each question, and 2 minutes for a closing statement. So we will begin with opening statements, and we will start with Gary St. Lawrence.
First of all, thank you for having me. This is the second Republican-sponsored event that I've been invited to. Chamber. It's largely Republican. My point is, we've been here 2 hours and nobody has burst into flames. I live in Blairsville with my wife and our dogs. My wife's not here tonight because she is watching our granddaughter in her first recital on Zoom. I get to watch the recording. I am not from Georgia. When I was in the Army, I am an Army veteran, 10 years. The first 3 years I had one of those jobs I can't talk about. And then the latter 7 years, it was journalism and broadcasting, and I was a very dangerous individual because I was a journalist with a top secret security clearance. I had a lot of fun with that. My career has been in journalism, and my passion has been politics. I started when I was 12 years old. I forged my father's name to a subscription to the Washington Post because I'd heard about these two nobody journalists who took down the United States president, and I was just stunned. And I think that set the path for me into journalism for my entire life, really. So I know how the political sausage is made. I know what goes into it, I know what the ingredients are, and y'all have had sausage, you know when it's good and you know when it's bad. So I have a particular passion and interest in exposing that bad. I'm assuming we'll get into that a little bit more during the questions. I originally am from Massachusetts. I grew up going to summer camp every year for 12 years. I started out as a first year and I ended up being a senior counselor. So I spent my formative years growing up in a very small town on a lake. And that formed my passion, my picture in my head for decades of where I wanted to end up. We searched the entire country looking for this picture I had in my head, and we found it in Blairsville. I'd been telling people for decades I wanted to live in Mayberry with a Starbucks and a satellite dish, and we found it. I still work full-time, so my campaigning is nights and weekends. I don't have much of a staff. My campaign director is at the Gilmer County Commissioner meeting tonight. So I have a lot of research experience and a lot of exposure to politicians that I bring to the table. We will get into more questions, and I thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. Representative Wilway.
Thank you very much, Mandy, to the chamber, for all of you folks here. To Gary, I'll say this. I think it must be his Army background because he was the only one of my our only opponent to show up, and I don't even face him hopefully until November. But my opponents did not come tonight, and I'm not sure what that tells my Dawson County neighbors, but hopefully you guys will call them out for not coming and being heard. As a native of Dawsonville, I am just proud to be here. There's something that we all have in common. Every person I think in this room loves our community. And that's why I started my service journey. Many of you in the room know me. I know I have the benefit of growing up here. I grew up on Allen Street, and I did not go to high school in this building. My brother was the first graduating class in this in 1998. 1998, I was a sophomore at the University of North Georgia, and I got my first job working full-time as a teller, going to school for a double major in accounting and finance. And I tell everybody that my career in banking began then, and I started going downhill ever since. Working now as a commercial lender and a regional executive with Farm Bureau Bank, measuring that of not just the private sector, but also the agriculture community, and trying to help folks with jobs. I've been a construction lender, but I've never made a loan on any rental communities or any townhomes. Typically, my construction lending had to do with very small, 10 to 20 neighborhood subdivisions, and probably over 1,000 individual custom homes where people were building on their family land or land that they had bought on 1 to 5 acres. So I've loved being a banker in this community my entire life. I served on the school board, and let me tell you what got me into that. Some of you have heard the story, so apologies, I'll make it quick. But I graduated in 1996 with 95 other friends. But my freshman class with that same group, there were 202 of us. Many were able to graduate when my wife graduated in 1997, but most went on to do other things. I believe that we could fix things. We could make it better than it was before. That's what's drawn me to serve in the State House as your State 9 District Rep. I've been there 6 years, and I've done a lot. As one of my neighbors says, Will, I've seen you do more in 6 years than the guy next to you that's been here 25. I didn't do it just to get a job to be a state rep. I could have stayed in the state rep. I don't think any of these gentlemen would have primaried me for this if I wanted to stay. But I believe in making an impact and being effective. And I think the Senate district needs someone that is experienced in the private sector, someone that is experienced and knows their priorities. I told you guys 6 years ago, faith, family, and this district is what I'm about. It's the same for this Senate district. We're one mountain community. I played sports across these mountains. My kids are now doing that as 5th and 4th graders. I hope to answer all your questions. I'm going to stick around to hear more. We've had a great conversation, and thank you very much. And I hope you will vote for me this May. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And you can just keep that microphone, Will. You will go next.
All right.
As Dawson County continues to grow, many of the decisions that impact our future, such as funding, infrastructure, and economic development policy, are influenced at the state level. What is your vision for supporting the long-term growth and economic development of District 51 through state-level policy and funding, and how will you advocate for Dawson County within that vision?
Certainly. Thank you for the question. I'll say that I'm probably the one that's currently most uniquely able to answer that because I've been doing that for the last 6 years as your state rep. I've been bringing what I call common sense balance to the issues that we face. I know that our community faced a huge increase in our assessments. That's why I carried local legislation that recognized both our seniors needed an increase in their exemption, but also recognized those folks that had been living here for 30 plus years and had had that tax burden shifted on them. So you, the voters, voted to eliminate the first $500,000 of property taxes on your homesteaded house if you've homesteaded here for 30 years. I worked with our county commission, our school board. We had dialogue for many months. And that did not negatively impact the overall funding in total for our local community. Our school system actually voted in favor of opting into House Bill 581. Why? Because I think they're the best school board in the state. I happen to have served with them for a few years. But they also understood that was impacting their teachers, their bus drivers, their faculty, and their new teachers who need to have affordable homes as well. I think what I can do as a state rep, I can do in the state Senate. And what I want to do is I want to bring about a glide path to where we have increased funding from a 21st century perspective. We need to redo the QBE formula. I want to introduce something that's going to bring the QBE local 5 mil down to the local 4 mil. I think Dawson County, Lumpkin County, and all the mountain communities, it's no longer our responsibility to fund that of Metro Atlanta schools that have far more commercial base to have their funds to do that. That will be a huge impact. And I also want to see us have an additional penny. There are 10 systems in this state that have an extra penny for funding their schools, and all of them have rolled back property taxes and have the lowest property tax and millage rate in the state. I want to see that opportunity for this district too. Thank you. Look forward to more questions.
Thank you. Just let me know if you need me to repeat that. Where am I? As Dawson County continues to grow, many of the decisions that impact our future, such as funding, infrastructure, and economic development policy, are influenced at the state level. So what is your vision for supporting the long-term growth and economic development of District 51 through state-level policy and funding, and how will you advocate for Dawson County within that vision?
The short answer, mom and pop shops over corporations. I look at Dawson, you kind of have the reverse problem that Blairsville has, Union County has. Union County has one sit-down chain restaurant and 17 fast food joints. There are several mom and pop shops, several good restaurants, and they're fine. But they struggle because they don't have the corporate money behind them. And the way that the state funding works, it definitely favors the corporations over the mom and pop shops. So I want to see some of these tax breaks shifted to the local owners, the private entrepreneurs, the people who are just starting out, and the mom and pops who have been doing it for 40 years. There's not enough money coming their way from a very large pool of money that could be. The Dawson growth announcement that was in the news last week was kind of a dual-edged sword. Great for growth, but is it the kind of growth that you want to see? From what I'm hearing, no. We're seeing more corporate chains. We're seeing more big business. We're seeing more box stores. But we're not seeing a whole lot of support for the restaurant that's been on the corner for 40 years and desperately needs attention. So I think shifting the funding allocations and tax incentives from chains to mom and pops is critical. It's the foundation of your community.
Great. You can hang on to that. You will answer this next one. A strong workforce is essential to supporting both existing businesses and attracting new opportunities. In Dawson County, workforce development remains a significant challenge for many of our businesses and industry and continues to be one of our top priorities at the Chamber of Commerce and the Development Authority. We are seeing growth across multiple industries and want to ensure our workforce is trained and ready to meet those needs. So my question is, workforce development is critical for our region, so what are your plans to support job creation and training opportunities?
As I've been campaigning, I've been talking at length with the county commissioners, and Mr. Dockery can confirm this, that one of the things that I know that Dawson County is having a problem with is keeping their young first responders. Fire, EMT, police, paramedics, hospital medical staff, med techs. They're not homesteaded, so they find out that they can make $3 an hour more, 2 counties over, they're gone. So the veterans are starting to retire. The middle of the road guys are moving into the veteran status, and there's nobody to bring up the rear. So clearly there's a funding issue, a training issue, and a fund allocation issue for first responders. That's also going to pertain to things like raising the state's minimum wage, which is the lowest in the country for Georgia. There needs to be a more focused and real-time on the ground understanding of how we should pay people and what the jobs they do are worth. I don't think a paramedic or an EMT or a fireman is doing a less important job than a CEO. That's got to change. It's financial respect, it's professional respect, and we need to bolster that.
Representative Wade?
I think I got it. So a couple of things. First, 3 things really. One, I think we need to continue the investment that we have within our career and college community and our technical institutions. And I actually believe by the time my children, who are going to be graduating, hopefully if we do a decent job as parents, in the early 2030s, 2034 and 2035 to be exact, I want to see where every single graduate of my children's class has an opportunity, not just 10% or 20%, but every single one of them have an opportunity to come out with not only a high school diploma, but the equivalent of an associate's degree in under today's college status, as well as a certification and a degree in a trade or a skill that we have in our career and college academies and our technical schools. We can do that because there are other countries that are already using that model. I think that is going to be where we can be ahead of other states. We have the best system across the country. That's why we have actually over 74% of businesses that have moved into Georgia in the last 6 years since I've been in the State House have been outside of the metro Atlanta area, and all of them are employing less than 50 people. They are the core mom and pop small businesses. Those are some of my folks that they're not my existing clients, but those are the bank customers that I've dealt with over my career. Number 2 that I think we can do is we want to incentivize the idea of not just entrepreneurship, but the way that many of us learn, and that was what? Apprenticeships. We can continue to do that and partner like Dawson County school system has with local businesses to feed it. And as it relates to those county workers, they're dealing with what I'm sure all these county commissioners did, we did as a school board. What's the difference in quality of life and the balance for an educator to work in Dawson or Lumpkin? Many of them make a choice to stay here and make less than they could go to Forsyth County because Forsyth County provides more. In the fire and EMS, what we did is we actually increased the opportunity for a fireman to retire after 25 years and come right back to work to continue to teach that next generation. I'll be at the table for those kind of opportunities if I'm elected. Thank you.
This next question.
There's only 2 of us.
I know, y'all are just round robin.
That's it.
Infrastructure plays a key role in supporting growth. And here in Dawson County, that includes transportation corridors like Highway 400, local roads, as well as critical needs like water, broadband, and other utilities, all which require continued investment and often rely on state level funding and prioritization. How will you advocate for infrastructure funding and priorities at the state level that directly benefit Dawson County?
Well, I appreciate that. I was actually very encouraged by the opportunity that I had to work with our Dawson County commissioners. And I have been advocating, writing letters, calling all of my peers on appropriations and working to get $1.7 million to add to that fund that the county is doing in order to deal with Lumpkin Campground Road and Highway 53. Now, I will say this, it has to be a partnership between those local elected officials and the state. I'm not going to pick on a past commission, but I remember over 15 years ago when there was an opportunity that state dollars, LMIG funds that come from your gas taxes, could have been allocated to have a center turn lane all the way from what we, when I was a kid, called the blinking red light at Lumpkin Campground that would have taken it all the way over Gober Hill. And there was a decision at the time that they didn't want to participate, that none of those folks are elected today. But unfortunately, that caused a 20-year delay, which has exacerbated the problem. So what I have is a dialogue, and it's an open one. And sometimes we don't agree immediately. We discuss, this is the pro, this is the con. I did it with every one of our existing county commissioners in the state house. I've had those conversations with Chairman Dockery about, will this work? What's the negative impact? That's what I'll continue to do. We did it also, the Russell Creek Reservoir. I was a brand new chairman when I signed the letter in support of what we now have 19 years later we broke ground on last year. The state was a huge part of that. I then had the opportunity as your state representative to vote for an appropriation to continue to finish that project, to bring down those federal dollars to help us have drinking water. And I want to say this, I know we've got time. I hope we can discuss the concerns about our national forest, but let me tell you, the forestry folks, they're very happy of what we're doing because they can now ensure that we get rid of what is currently a dangerous amount of fuel in our woods that we don't want to have California wildfires. Those folks can handle it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. St. Lawrence?
Infrastructure is a particularly key word in District 51. I have found that all 7 counties have a unique need under infrastructure. Dawson County, definitely transportation. Lumpkin County, they need, I was told, what they really need is a transportation hub because it is so damn hard to get to Lumpkin County. Coming from Blairsville, I get to go over Blood Mountain every time I go to Dahlonega. So, but another example is Pickens County. Pickens is the only county in the district that doesn't have its own fresh water supply. They were supposed to get infrastructure funding in 2024, and it didn't happen. As a result, Pickens taxpayers are paying $2,750 per day to bring fresh water in from the surrounding counties. My fix for that would be, let's take 1% of the budget surplus we're sitting on and give it to Pickens like they were promised. So White County has a massive problem with tree falls on Old State Route 71. I literally dodged 2 of them going to a meeting in Helen about a month and a half ago. It rains, the trees that are already leaning, they just drop. And if you drive that route, you see nothing but cut up trees that have already fallen. So every county has a unique need, and fortunately, every county, the solution to those needs is the same. We need to structure how we are going to fund resources and allocate and distribute equally so the funnel of money isn't heavy in Atlanta and Savannah and sparse up here in Dawson and Lumpkin and the rest of the 7 counties.
Thank you very much. All right, we're going to recycle a question that we asked the House because I believe it is very important for us to understand where you stand on this, but it's about the property taxes. They've been a major concern. They're A recent legislation was proposed limiting annual increases to around 3% or the rate of inflation. What's your position on these types of property tax caps, and how would you balance providing relief to taxpayers while maintaining funding for local services? Additionally, what would your plan be to address any potential funding shortfalls without shifting the burden to our local businesses? Yep, you were first.
Well, I just blanked. I'm sorry, the main topic again?
What is your position on these types of property tax caps?
Right.
And how would you
Okay.
balance the relief?
If you think of taxes and state revenue, it's a three-legged stool. The chair that you sit on is the revenue, and each of the three legs is the type of tax: property, state, and income. If you eliminate one of those taxes, the stool falls over. So taxes are like energy. They never go away. They just take on a new form. So the promises we keep hearing about, we're going to eliminate income tax, we're going to eliminate property tax, we're going to eliminate sales tax, they sound great, but nobody has been able to answer exactly how you're going to do it and where you're going to get the lost revenue if you eliminate those taxes. So property tax, they all have their own unique demands. Sales taxes work great in places like Atlanta, Savannah, Jekyll Island, but not so much in Blairsville. They're largely dependent on tourism, as we're told. Blairsville has tourism about 3 months out of the year and maybe a week or two at Christmas. But the rest of the time, nobody's really coming to Blairsville for its, vacation opportunities. So the tax solution, I don't think anyone should be saying we're going to eliminate a tax. Because when you eliminate a tax, it's just going to take another form. It's either going to become a different tax, an increased other tax, or they cut the fees that tax supports. As I said, taxes are like energy. They just take on another form.
Thank you. Well, I've actually spent a lot of time thinking through this, and many of the folks in the room I've had conversations with. So here's my vision. I think over a 10-year period of time in the 21st century, y'all, we're already a quarter of the way through the 21st century. And we're still funding local and state government largely the way we have for over 75 to 80 years. What if we set in stone a big idea? 10 years from now, we get rid of our income tax in Georgia. We can do that over a 10-year period of time by cutting literally just half of those tax credits that Mr. Smith mentioned. I do agree, we need to get rid of some of those corporate tax credits. I'm all for it. I've got an idea that identifies $9 billion of the $15 billion you need to do just to get rid of the income tax. Number two, have 10 years where we transition and we allow counties and cities to put on their ballot an option. If their citizens want to get rid of property tax, you give the county a penny to do a full rollback on all property taxes. In Dawson County, they would be able to roll every homesteaded property away, and they could give every landowner, every business, and all farms an additional tax cut. And over time, if we continue to see the growth we've had over the last 15 years with our sales tax revenue, that would also eventually eliminate almost all property taxes. Not overnight, but incrementally over a decade. And we let local communities vote to have 1 penny to do the same thing to get rid of your school tax. And we set a state cap of a total of no more than 10% total taxes in any community. 4% that goes to the county, 1 penny being used to 100% rollback property taxes. 2 pennies for your school, 1 penny doing all of the property taxes. And you do it incrementally so that school systems and county commissions and the state can work together to blend that opportunity. And then there will be at least 1% of the 1% sales tax the state gets allocated for those parts of our states that are extremely poor and do not have either a robust property tax or sales tax. Thank you.
You can remain standing for what? We are going to go ahead and close it out. So we will move into your closing statement and any of your final thoughts.
Thank you. Again, thank you for all being here. It's great to see a lot of great friends, a lot of new faces. It's been an honor to be of service in this community. I got to marry my high school sweetheart. We got the dream of finally impressing my father-in-law because I gave him 2 beautiful children, my daughter and my son. I'm a dad first and a husband, but I believe in serving my community. That's why I agreed to run for school board. That's why I decided to step up when there was an open seat to serve you in the state legislature, following a man who, honestly, even this year, had said, hey, is that the guy in Kevin Tanner's seat? I'm still having to answer that question. You can laugh, it's true. And now I want to be the state senator to make sure that we have somebody that's been here into our 48 years. We understand what we're facing. We've got to continue to protect as much as we can and acknowledge it is a local and state partnership to deal with growth. But I also look around the room and I know this. The vast majority of you here were not here 30 years ago when I happened to be on a stage at Dawson County High School doing a similar play. And we did a great job of making our school system in our county better, which has drawn people here. Freedom has a price. We have a community that people want to be in. We have a part of the state that people want to move to because what we have is precious. Let's work together so we can maintain that quality of life. I'm always going to listen. My father, who was a great teacher, he always said, son, wisdom listens. And I've tried to emulate that in this role and in every role I've had in public service and even in the private sector. It's just, this community has got so many things that's going for it, y'all. I see friends of mine that I've met in the State House that have towns that are drying up, not just because it hasn't rained, but because they have nowhere for their kids to go to work. We have the problems that come with prosperity. And I hope you'll let me serve you in the state Senate to keep it in the same trajectory. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Wade. Closing argument. Listen to me, I'm in a mock trial. Candidate for it, Mandy. Okay.
Campaign promises are terrific. They sound wonderful, but they're rarely substance-based. When you look at any level of state government, particularly the General Assembly and the governorship, and I really do not mean to make this sound partisan, but Republicans have been in charge of the governor, General Assembly, State and House for 24 consecutive years. If things were going to be fixed, they should have done it by now. I think some different ideas are needed. Senate Bill 586, I know we talked about 581, but 586 was a bill to forbid any candidate who has financial or business ties with any state agency or contract to keep them from running from office. The Senate passed it. The House wouldn't even bring it to the floor for a discussion. So that speaks a lot, that they don't even want to discuss preventing candidates from having financial ties to the agencies and contracts they're going to govern. That's just plain wrong. So we've gone 24 years. We've seen a lot of the same promises made year after year and not come through. We got promises about health care and transportation and infrastructure and this, that, and the other. And instead we got bans on 7 things that aren't happening in Georgia. We got a new state flower, but we didn't get health care or any of the heavyweight issues that were promised. The trajectory needs to change, and I aim to change it.
Thank you very much. All right, let's give one more big round of applause for all of our candidates. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for your willingness to serve our community. Thank you for being receptive when I'm emailing and calling and being here tonight. That really does speak volumes for our community and for our board. I want to thank our advocacy committee who worked long and hard to put this together to make this event possible. And a special thank you to our advocacy partner, 400 North Board of Realtors, for their continued support. They're always amazing. As we head, yes, round of applause. And while we invite all political parties, we are not affiliated with any political party. We are the Chamber of Commerce. We did have great support from the Republican Party, especially Mike Burke, who helped strong arm y'all to get, no, he didn't, who helped get y'all here and helped me with some information and getting to y'all. So I really do appreciate that. As we head into election season, just a few quick reminders. Advanced voting begins April 27th and runs through May 15th. Election day is May 19th. This is an important time for our community. Your voice matters, your vote matters, and your engagement matters. So plan to get out there and vote. This is the first step, y'all being here tonight to hear our candidates, and I appreciate that and thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming out today. If you would like to revisit tonight's forum, we are going to post a video link to our YouTube page, and then we will share it to our chamber Facebook. So feel free to go out there and watch it, share it with friends. I know there are a lot of people who wanted us to live stream tonight, but we just weren't able to do that, but we are happy to share the content so that our entire community can get to know all of our candidates that are here today. Thank you again for being here, staying informed, and for being involved in the future of Dawson County. Have a great evening. They're gonna all stick around. They're gonna come out to the lobby and outside. So if you had a burning question, feel free to initiate and talk to the candidates while they are here. Thank y'all so much. We appreciate you.